You ever sit back and wonder how a woman can lose a man who gave her everything and still come running back the moment he's gone? Yeah, that mess will have you questioning your own sanity. You were there, present, loyal, honest. You tried to show her what real love looks like. You gave your time, showed her effort, stayed consistent, and she just drifted. Cold texts, dry calls, attitude for no reason. Suddenly, you're walking on eggshells for a woman who used to light up just to hear your voice. But here's the truth. Most men learn the hard way. A woman doesn't value presence until she feels absence. That's what flips the game. It's not the guy who stays, no matter how bad she treats him. It's the guy who respects himself enough to walk away when she stops appreciating his presence. That man? That's the one who lives rent-free in her head. That's the one she thinks about when she's laying in bed, scrolling through her phone, wondering if she messed up. See? Women in today's world are surrounded by attention, DMS likes, compliments, options. They don't chase what's always available. They chase what disappears without warning. The man who walks away with silence speaks louder than the guy who begs to be seen. If you're tired of feeling like you're never enough, this video is for you. I'm about to show you exactly why walking away is not weakness. It's power, why it turns indifference into obsession, and how to stop being the man who gets forgotten and become the man she can't stop thinking about. Let's go. Number 1. You show you're not desperate. Let me ask you something, man. Have you ever watched a basketball game where the player with the ball just keeps forcing shots? He's desperate to score, overthinking every move, trying to prove something, and what happens? He breaks everything. Meanwhile, the calm player, the one who waits for the right moment, takes smart shots and knows when to pull back. That's the one who dominates the game. Same thing in dating. When a woman senses you're desperate, the game's already over. The truth is, most men don't walk away because they're scared. Scared to lose her. Scared to be alone. Scared she might move on. And so, they keep showing up, keep checking in, keep overplaying their hand. But the more you do that, the less respect she has for you. Women are wired to test strength and desperation, no matter how it's masked. Always smells like weakness. Now here's what's powerful. When you finally step back, not because you're playing some tactic, but because you genuinely decide you're not going to beg to be in someone's life. That's when you flip the script. Think of it like the movie Gladiator. Maximus wasn't out there chasing glory. He was just focused, determined, stoic, and people followed him. He didn't need to ask for validation. He earned it by standing in his own power. That's how you need to move. Quiet confidence, not chasing, no convincing. Because when you walk away, you're sending a message without even saying a word. I want you, but I don't need you. And that's the line most women aren't used to hearing. Not because you said it, but because you lived it. That kind of man becomes rare. And when you're rare, you become valuable. You're no longer another guy flooding her DMs, asking if she's okay. You're not the one watching her stories hoping she notices you. You're not standing in line waiting for her to choose you. You walked off that line. You turned around and focused on your own lane, your money, your body, your peace. And now she's watching you. Let her wonder why you stopped trying. Let her question if she ever really had you. Because once she feels your absence, and she will, it hits different when it's from a man who was willing to stay but strong enough to walk away. You're not desperate, my guy. You're deliberate. And women don't chase desperation. They chase discipline. Number 2, you flip the power dynamic. Let's keep it real, brother. In today's dating world, women hold the power by default. Not because they've earned it, but because men handed it over without even thinking. We gave it up through chasing, through over-complimenting, through waiting hours for a dry response just because she's pretty. We handed it over when we stopped being the prize and started acting like we were lucky to even be in the room. But let me tell you this. When a man walks away, the power shifts instantly. Think about the movie The Dark Knight. Remember when Batman disappears in the middle of a conversation, leaving Commissioner Gordon mid-sentence? That move wasn't about being rude. It was about control. It sent the message, I'm not here for attention. I move on my terms. That's power. That's presence. And that's exactly what happens when you stop playing the game by her rules and start walking on your own. You see, most women don't expect men to walk away. They expect us to cling, to argue, to chase. That's the pattern. And the moment you do the opposite, when you go quiet instead of begging, calm instead of emotional, gone instead of available, boom, her entire mindset starts to shift. At first, she may act like she doesn't care. She'll play it cool. Maybe even post a few selfies to try and bait you back. But behind that, something is happening. She starts wondering why you didn't fight harder, why you didn't try to win her back. And the moment a woman starts asking herself those questions, she loses control of the power she thought she had. The truth is, women don't crave control. They crave a man they can respect. And respect doesn't come from how much you tolerate. It comes from how much you won't. That's what walking away does. It reclaims your position in the relationship. You're no longer the one reacting to her moods and availability. Now she's reacting to yours. She's not sure what you're thinking. She doesn't know if you've moved on. And the silence you left behind, that speaks louder than any argument ever could. Power is quiet. Power is still. It doesn't explain itself. Look, you're not punishing her. You're protecting your value. You're drawing the line that says, this is how I expect to be treated. If you can't meet me there, I'm gone. That's not ego. That's self-respect. And when you lead with respect, women feel it. Even if they don't say it, even if they act unfazed, deep down it stings. Because power is never taken with noise. It's taken with presence and absence. So flip the dynamic. Walk away, not to manipulate her, but to remind yourself of your worth. Stop handing over the power so easily. You're not a fan in the stands. You're the player on the court. And once you realize that, the game will never be the same again. Number 3. You become a challenge again. Let me tell you something most guys don't want to hear. Once you become too available, too predictable, too easy, you stop being exciting. It's not fair, but it's real. And if you're a man over 40, divorced, or just tired of the emotional games, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Let's take Derek, 47, works in finance in Chicago. He met Rachel, 43, a recently single interior designer. She was warm, funny, flirty, the spark was real. And Derek, he did what most good men do. He responded quickly. He planned thoughtful dates. He made it clear how he felt. And for a while, it worked. But then, something shifted. Rachel's texts got shorter. She started getting busy. That same woman who used to light up around him started to dim. Derek was confused. Wasn't consistency what women wanted? Here's the catch. He stopped being a challenge. There was no more mystery, no edge, no uncertainty. And without even knowing it, Rachel began to emotionally check out. This is the moment most men panic. They double down, try harder, buy flowers, plan a surprise weekend. But the more you chase, the more you confirm what she already feels. She's got you. And if she's already unsure, that reassurance only turns her off more. But Derek didn't beg. He didn't send along, "What happened to us?" text. He pulled back, quietly, calmly. And guess what happened? 3 days later, Rachel messaged him, "Hey stranger, you disappeared." That's not just a text. That's curiosity. That's emotional tension rebuilding itself. Because now, she didn't know where she stood. She felt the space, the shift, the silence. And suddenly, Derek wasn't the safe, nice guy anymore. he was a question again. That's what being a challenge really means. It's not about playing games. It's about not being fully solved. It's about being present but not predictable, available but not overexposed. See, attraction dies when there's nothing left to figure out. And unfortunately, most men reveal everything too soon. They make themselves emotionally naked before she's even fully invested. But when you hold just a little bit back your thoughts, your plans, your emotions, she starts to lean in, not because you're manipulating her, but because you've restored emotional polarity, you've reintroduced the unknown. And women don't chase men who explain everything. They chase the men who make them wonder. So if you're feeling her drift, stop overcompensating. Pull back a little, let her mind do the chasing. Because when she doesn't know what you're thinking, she has to feel something. And that emotion, uncertainty, is the beginning of renewed attraction. Want to test it? Instead of texting her first today, wait. See what happens. Let her wonder. Let her notice. Let her reach. If you've been that guy who gave too much, too fast, and you're ready to shift the energy, drop it in the comments. Type, "I hold my edge." We're not done yet. The next move isn't about her emotions. It's about your position in the game. Number 4. You stop competing with other men. Let's clear something up. The moment you start comparing yourself to other men for a woman's attention, you've already lost. Not because you're weak, not because you're less, but because you've stepped out of your masculine frame and into a game that was never yours to play. See, most guys don't even realize they're doing it. It starts small. You notice she follows some guy with abs and a yacht. You catch her smiling at some dude's story. You hear her mention how funny her co-worker is. Now, instead of staying grounded in your own value, you shift. You try harder. You dress better. You start texting faster, becoming nicer, more agreeable, and just like that, you're not you anymore. You're just one of the guys auditioning. And brother, women can smell that energy from a mile away. Here's what you have to understand. The man who walks away isn't trying to win her attention by beating the next guy. He's not playing in that arena. He doesn't look left or right. He doesn't care who she's talking to, texting, or entertaining. He's not blind to it. He just refuses to compete for what's not choosing him clearly. That's power. That's detachment. That's the edge that makes her reconsider everything. Because while other men are jumping through hoops to prove their worth, he's standing still, calm, unbothered. Not because he's cold, but because he knows something most don't. A woman who truly values a man doesn't make him chase her in a race with other men. Now, don't get it twisted. This doesn't mean you become passive. It means you become selective. You stop trying to impress. You stop checking her likes. You stop molding yourself into what you think she wants. You stop entering rooms trying to be the man and start walking in already knowing that you are. And when you carry that energy, she notices. Note immediately, maybe. But eventually, that contrast becomes undeniable. Because most guys she's used to, they fold under the pressure of competition. But you don't even acknowledge it. That's what shifts the power. Now here's where Stoicism kicks in. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." You don't become more desirable by debating your worth, overcompensating, or outperforming others. You become desirable by being deeply, consistently you, and walking away from anything that asks you to prove it. When you drop the need to compete, you stop feeding the emotional attention loop. You stop dancing for her validation. And ironically, that's what makes her start watching you closer. Because now you're not fighting for her energy. You're choosing peace over performance. You're the man in control of his path, not just chasing her down a dead-end street. The truth is, women admire the man who's already fulfilled, who's not scrambling for attention, who doesn't see other men as threats because he doesn't define himself by comparison. You become untouchable, not because you're arrogant, but because you're focused. You're not interested in playing the game. You're the reason the game changes. So let the others perform. Let them flex, joke, chase and compete. You don't need to prove your masculinity in a circus of validation. You prove it in silence, in boundaries, in direction, in the way you walk away when you feel like you're just one of the options. If you've ever found yourself in competition, but you're ready to exit that energy for good, drop a comment below. Type, "I don't chase status," because from this point on, you don't compete. You choose. And the next shift we're diving into, it's the emotional trigger that lingers long after you're gone. Number 5. You trigger regret and curiosity. Let's get honest for a second. You don't want revenge. You don't want drama. You want respect. But what if I told you the most powerful way to shift a woman's perception of you, especially one who's been taking you for granted, isn't by doing more. It's by doing nothing at all. Let me tell you about Jason, 42, a business consultant from Phoenix. He'd been dating Melissa, 39, a yoga instructor he met through mutual friends. Things started great, passionate, close, full of chemistry. But over time, she pulled back. Less texting, more excuses. Suddenly she was busy, 3 weekends in a row, but still posting selfies with captions like, "Protecting my peace." Jason felt it. He didn't beg, didn't send long paragraphs. He just stopped reaching out. No announcement, no speech, just space. A week went by, then 10 days, then out of nowhere, she sent him a late-night message. "You disappeared. Everything okay?" That right there, that's regret and curiosity kicking in. See, when a man constantly reaches out, explains himself, and sticks around, even when he's being overlooked, he becomes invisible. Predictable. Expected. But when he walks away quietly without drama, without resentment, he leaves a vacuum. And here's the truth most women won't admit. They hate not knowing. The moment you disappear with dignity, 2 things start swirling in her head. First, regret. She starts replaying the times she brushed you off, the texts she ignored, the way you showed up, and she didn't match your energy. She won't say it out loud, but in her mind, she's asking herself, "Did I mess that up?" Second, curiosity. Where'd he go? Is he seeing someone else? Did he lose interest? Or did he just realize he deserves better? That curiosity becomes a loop, because now she's the one wondering. She's the one checking if you viewed her story. She's the one scanning for signs that you're still around. And the best part, you didn't force it. You just gave her what most men are afraid to. Silence. Here's where it gets even deeper. When you leave that space, and she fills it with her own thoughts, she starts to project emotions onto you. She assigns meaning to your absence. She builds narratives in her head. He probably found someone more feminine than me. He was too good to stick around for that version of me. And the moment those thoughts take root, you become larger in her mind than you ever were in her presence. Now don't confuse this with manipulation. You're not disappearing to punish her. You're stepping back to protect your energy, and in doing so, you create the emotional contrast she didn't know she needed. The Stoics had a word for this: apatheia, not indifference, but a state of calm detachment from things outside your control. As Epictetus said, we cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them. You're not responding with anger. You're responding with stillness, with dignity. And that hits deeper than any clever comeback or attention-grabbing gesture. Now back to Jason. He didn't rush back when Melissa reached out. He waited. And when he finally responded, it wasn't emotional or cold. It was neutral, balanced. He told her he'd just been busy focusing on himself. That energy, that shook her more than any argument ever could. So here's the move. When you feel her slipping, don't chase. Step back. Let silence carry your message. Let her imagination do what your words no longer need to. If you've ever stepped back and watched her start to wonder, drop it in the comments. Type, I create space. And the next shift we're about to cover, it's not about her at all. It's about you reclaiming your masculine edge and becoming the man she can't define or replace. Number 6. You rebuild your masculine frame. Here's the truth most men avoid. You don't get her respect by explaining yourself. You get it by becoming a man who doesn't need to. When you walk away, it's not just about giving her space to feel your absence. It's about using that space to reclaim your masculine frame, that calm, grounded energy that doesn't react, doesn't beg, and doesn't bend. You don't rebuild that frame by sulking. You rebuild it by refocusing. See, most men lose themselves in the relationship. They get soft, not physically, mentally. They stop doing the things that gave them that edge in the first place. They trade discipline for comfort, purpose for validation. And worst of all, they start putting her at the center of everything. That's when the frame collapses. A masculine frame isn't about dominance or bravado. It's about structure, integrity, self-command. It's built in silence, in early mornings, in long workouts, in doing the hard things when no one's watching. That's why walking away is only the first step. What you do after you walk away, that's where the real shift happens. You go back to your routine. You stop checking your phone. You stop wondering if she's missing you. And you start reconnecting with the man you were before she softened you. You bring back your standards. You raise your boundaries. You make time for your mission again, not for her approval, but for your own evolution. And that energy, that quiet focus, it radiates. Because here's what women can't resist. A man who is present but not needy. Available but not waiting. Kin but unshakable. When she senses that shift, she won't always know how to react. Some women will test it. Some will pull away even more. But the ones who are real, the ones who are ready, will feel something they haven't felt in a long time. Attraction mixed with respect. Stoicism teaches us that the only true power we have lies in mastering ourselves. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's exactly what a masculine frame is. Not control over her, but control over you. It means you don't respond to her silence with desperation. You don't need to convince her of your worth. You don't need to match her energy, you set it. So if you're in the phase where you've already walked away, this is where your attention goes. Not to her social media, not to your empty inbox, but to your own habits, your own standards, your own path. Because when you're locked in with your mission again, you don't even realize how magnetic that makes you. Women don't crave the man who waits by the phone. They crave the man who disappeared and came back sharper, stronger, colder. Not for her, but for himself. If you've ever felt yourself drifting out of frame and you're now committed to rebuilding it, drop it in the comments. Type, "I stand grounded." Now get ready, because the next shift, that's where you give her the one thing she's secretly craving but will never ask for directly. Number 7. You give her the gift of missing you. You ever wonder why the moment you finally stop trying, she suddenly shows up again? It's not a coincidence. It's psychology. And more importantly, it's timing. Let me break it down for you. When you're always available, always texting first, always saying yes, you're removing the very thing that fuels desire. Space. Not physical distance. Emotional space. Psychological space. The unknown. Now take Matt, 51, runs his own contracting business in Denver. Recently divorced, finally started dating again. He met Angela, 46, on a hiking trail. Real connection. Smart, beautiful, independent. They hit it off fast, daily texts, long phone calls, plans every weekend. But after a few weeks, something changed. She started pulling back, shorter replies, excuses, laissez-faire. Matt felt it in his gut. The old version of him would have chased harder. But this time, he didn't. He didn't ghost her. He didn't act out. He just stopped filling the silence. 3 days passed, then 5, then 10. On day 11, he gets a text. "Hey, I haven't heard from you. Everything okay?" That's the moment she started missing him. Because now, Matt wasn't just present. He was absent with reason. See, the modern woman is constantly stimulated: likes, DMs, attention overload. And when you're always right there, no tension builds, no mystery lingers. But when you disappear without drama, without announcement, you allow her to feel something she rarely experiences these days: longing. And longing is powerful. When she doesn't hear from you, she starts scanning old messages. She replays moments you shared. She wonders what you're doing, and more importantly, who you're doing it with. She might not act on it right away, but emotionally, you've just been promoted from one of the options to the one she can't stop thinking about. Here's the part no one talks about. Missing you is a gift. It's how she reconnects with your value on her own terms. Not convincing, not reminding, not chasing, just space and silence. Now remember, the silence has to be earned. You can't walk away hoping she'll chase you. That's not power. That's manipulation. You walk away because you've said enough. Because you know your presence is only as valuable as her ability to feel your absence. As Seneca wrote, sometimes even to live is an act of courage. In your case, to live without clinging, to exist without explaining, to hold back, not from fear, but from strength. Matt didn't send long texts, didn't watch her stories. He stayed in motion, focused on work, hit the gym again, reconnected with his brother. And when Angela circled back, it wasn't because he played games. It was because she finally felt the weight of his absence. That's what she remembers. The man who didn't beg. The man who respected himself enough to create distance. The man who knew, if she's really meant to be there, she'll feel it and return on her own. So ask yourself, are you giving her space to miss you? Or are you making it too easy for her to forget? If you've stopped chasing and started letting your absence speak for itself, drop it in the comments. Type, "I hold my space." Because the next shift isn't about emotions anymore. It's about tension, power, and how to stir attraction without ever making a move. Number 8. You create sexual tension without touching. Let's talk about something most guys get completely wrong. Sexual tension isn't about physical contact. It's not about touching her knee under the table or leaning in a little too close. It's about energy. It's about what you don't say, what you don't do, and how much control you have when you clearly could do more. See, real sexual tension is built on restraint. Most guys rush to close the gap physically and emotionally. They're quick to compliment, to initiate, to reach out, to escalate. And by doing that, they burn the fuse before the fire even starts. They remove the mystery. They kill the anticipation. They show all their cards, and then wonder why there's no spark. Now think of the opposite. The man who speaks with his eyes but doesn't chase. The man who holds his composure even when she leans in. The man who makes her feel something just by the way he exists in a room. That's tension. That's power. That's the stuff she remembers later when she's alone, playing that moment back in her mind. You want to create that effect? Start by doing less. Don't overtalk. Don't over-explain. Let silence stretch a little longer than she expects. Let your glance linger, just long enough for her to notice, but not long enough for her to decode. That moment of not knowing what you're thinking, that's the spark. You're not being cold. You're being deliberate. You're not playing games. You're holding frame. There's a quote by Epictetus that hits here. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Why does that matter? Because sometimes restraint looks like disinterest. It takes strength to not fill the silence, to not text her right after the date, to not lean in when everything in you says, go for it. But that's what makes you different from every other man who gives in too fast. You're not afraid to hold the line. The irony, The less you try, the more her mind starts trying to connect the dots. She wonders what you're thinking. She senses something underneath but can't quite define it. That undefined pull, that's attraction. It's raw, it's primal, it's real. And don't confuse this with passivity. You're not ignoring her. You're just not performing. You're creating a space where she can feel you without needing to touch you. And here's the Stoic edge to this. You're not attached to the outcome. You're not seducing to get a response. You're not signaling to gain something. You're grounded in who you are, and you let that calm presence speak louder than words ever could. Because in a world full of men begging to be noticed, the one who holds back, who restrains, who remains composed, that's the one who lingers in her mind. Here's what most men don't realize. It's not the act of seduction that's powerful. It's the gap between impulse and action. It's the moment where you could escalate, but you don't. You smile instead. You pull back. You leave room for her to lean in. And when she does, it's not because you forced it. It's because you gave her permission to feel it. So if you've been that man, the one who can light up a room without touching a thing, drop it in the comments. Type, "I build tension." Now here's the next move. It flips the dynamic completely. It's when she stops waiting for you to lead and starts stepping toward you. Number 9. You force her to choose. There comes a moment when a woman has to decide. Stay curious or step up. Keep playing games or be honest. And that moment only happens when you stop doing all the emotional lifting. Let me tell you about David, 53, a software engineer from Austin. He started seeing Kendra, 48, an art teacher going through a rough separation. She was charming, spiritual, emotionally expressive, but also confusing as hell. Some days, she was all in. Sweet texts, future plans. Other days, radio silence. David started wondering if she was even interested at all. But instead of asking, instead of chasing, he made a quiet decision. No more gray area. He pulled back, not with bitterness, but with clarity. He stopped texting first, stopped scheduling dates, stopped checking her Instagram stories. And guess what? That emotional vacuum forced Kendra to make a choice. 3 days later, she messaged him, "Hey, have I done something wrong?" That's when the power shifted. Because David wasn't punishing her. He wasn't angry. He was simply no longer available for half-hearted energy. See, this is the part most men never get to experience because they're too afraid to hold their ground. They keep investing, hoping she'll wake up. But she never has to because you never made her. You see, when you stop showing up by default, she now has to confront something uncomfortable, losing you. And here's what happens next, one of two things. She either leans in because she realizes your absence feels heavier than your presence ever demanded, or she disappears and makes room for someone better. Either way, you win, but only if you're willing to risk her walking away. The reason this works is simple. Indecision D's in clarity. The minute you stop holding emotional space for both of you, the minute you stop giving her all the time in the world to figure it out, she now has to face the mirror. And most women are not used to that. They're used to men sticking around no matter how confusing, inconsistent, or lukewarm they act. But when you force a decision without force, you break the cycle. There's a quote by Marcus Aurelius that fits perfectly here. If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. In other words, if it's not authentic, why continue feeding it? When a man walks away from emotional ambiguity, he's not being cold, he's being honest. Now, to be clear, this isn't about issuing ultimatums. You're not saying, pick me or I'm gone. You're simply removing yourself from the game of guessing. You're saying, without saying, I'm here if this is real. If it's not, I'm good either way. Oh, and that triggers one of the most powerful feminine responses, a need to claim. Because once she feels you slipping away, once she realizes your energy isn't a guarantee, she has to decide. Not just if she wants you, but if she's willing to meet you where you are. David didn't need Kendra to beg. He didn't demand explanations. He just gave her space to make a decision. And in doing so, he reclaimed his time, his energy, and his dignity. So if you've been sitting in emotional limbo waiting for her to figure it out, stop. Step back. Hold your line. Let her do the work of deciding. And whatever her answer is, you've already won by choosing yourself first. If you've walked away from confusion and found clarity on the other side, drop it in the comments. Type, "I hold the line." Because the final shift we're about to hit, it's not about what you say or what you do. It's about what she starts to feel long after you're gone. Number 10. You become the one that got away. Every woman has one. The man she doesn't talk about, but never quite forgets. The one who didn't chase, didn't beg, didn't lose himself trying to win her. The one who stayed grounded, then walked away with his dignity intact. And that man becomes a ghost she compares everyone else to long after he's gone. You see, when you walk away with calm detachment, with no drama, no resentment, no final speech, you leave behind a question. Not closure, not chaos, just silence. And that silence echoes. At first, she may feel relief. The pressure's off, the dynamic has shifted, she's back in control. But as the days pass, something strange starts to happen. Instead of remembering everything you did, she starts to remember everything you didn't do. You didn't argue. You didn't chase. You didn't unravel. That's rare. That's powerful. And that's what stays. She'll tell herself she made the right choice. She'll go on a few dates. She'll scroll, swipe, smile politely. But every now and then, when a guy says the wrong thing, or tries too hard, or fails to spark that feeling, your image flashes back. Not because you were perfect, but because you were different. You weren't needy. You weren't reactive. You didn't need her attention to feel like a man. And now, when she lies awake at 2 a.m., she won't replay the things you said. She'll replay the things you didn't say. The restraint, the stillness, the way you left quiet, sure, and unbothered. Because here's the truth most men miss. Closure doesn't come from words. It comes from tension unresolved. From the emotional thread that was never fully tied off. When you walk away before she's figured you out. When you disappear while she's still processing. You become a mental loop she can't complete. And that loop, that's how you become the man she can't stop thinking about even if she never tells a soul. This isn't about revenge. It's not about making her suffer. It's about honoring the most stoic principle of all, self-possession. As Epictetus said, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. And her validation, her approval, her regret, all outside your control. Your only job is to hold your standard, to live with intention, to remain unshaken no matter how beautiful she is, how charming, how unpredictable. You don't become the one that got away by vanishing in a puff of ego. You become it by remaining so calm, so composed, so emotionally sovereign, that she's left wondering what kind of man could walk away like that. Because deep down, every woman wants a man she can't quite figure out. A man who doesn't flinch. A man who doesn't apologize for his strength. A man who doesn't break when she pushes. That kind of man doesn't just disappear. He imprints. So maybe she forgets your name. Maybe she deletes your number. Maybe she even tells herself you didn't mean that much. But one day, she'll be sitting across from someone who talks too much, who reveals too soon, who leans in too quickly. And suddenly, without warning, she'll remember you. The way you looked at her like you saw through her. The way you held your silence like a weapon. The way you left not to punish, but to preserve yourself. And that moment, that's when you become more than just a memory. You become the standard, not for what she needs, but for what she'll always feel when she thinks about what she once had and let go. If you've made it this far, then you already know, walking away isn't weakness. It's strength. It's clarity. It's the quiet power that makes her see you differently and feel you long after you've gone. So if this message hit home, don't just watch and disappear. Subscribe to the channel right now, because tomorrow we're dropping something even deeper, something that'll keep you one step ahead in both love and mindset. Thanks for watching, and as always, I'll see you tomorrow.